Listen, I want you to picture a kitchen table in a modest ranch house outside Cincinnati, and I want you to picture a woman named Eleanor sitting at that table on a Tuesday morning in the spring of 2026 with a cup of black coffee going cold in front of her and a manila folder open under her hands. Eleanor is 71 years old. She taught fourth grade in the same public school district for 34 years. She retired with a pension that pays her enough to keep the lights on, cover the property taxes, and put a little something in a birthday card for her granddaughter twice a year. Her husband Raymond passed 3 years ago from a stroke that came so fast the ambulance did not matter. And ever since she stood in that funeral home signing forms with a pen that felt like it weighed 40 pounds, Eleanor has been quietly, methodically, obsessively organizing her affairs so that her son Michael, who works as a mechanic in Dayton, will not have to go through the same paperwork nightmare she went through. She has been doing everything right. She has been doing everything the mainstream financial columns told her to do. She has been doing everything her nice young banker with the friendly smile suggested she do. And she is about to walk directly into a trap that will cost her son $3,000, 3 months of grief-stricken confusion, and a stack of legal filings he has no idea how to complete. Because Eleanor, God bless her, took the single most important document she owns, the original signed last will and testament that she paid a Cincinnati estate attorney $1,400 to draft, and she put it inside a safe deposit box at her bank. And she put it there for the most reasonable, most loving, most heartbreakingly logical reason a mother can have. She was afraid of a house fire. She was afraid of a break-in. She was afraid the paperwork would get lost in a shoebox in the basement. So she drove to the branch on a Wednesday afternoon. She sat across from a personal banker named Kayla, who was 26 years old and who had never in her professional life processed a probate access request. She signed the lease agreement without reading the fine print, because who reads the fine print on a $50 a year contract for a metal drawer? She paid the annual fee out of her checking account. She walked back into the vault with Kayla and the 2 keys. She placed the will inside a fireproof metal drawer behind an inch of hardened steel and a combination lock, and she drove home feeling, for the first time in the 3 years since Raymond's funeral, like she had finally done something right. She told her son Michael on the phone that night. She said, "Honey, everything you are going to need is in the bank." She said, "When I am gone, all you have to do is take the spare key I gave you and walk into the branch and they will help you." She meant every word of it. She had no idea she had just handed her son a puzzle that would take him 90 days to solve. And that peace of mind is the most expensive feeling she will ever purchase. Because the second Eleanor stops breathing, the same steel wall she paid the bank to build around her paperwork becomes the wall that separates her son from his own inheritance. That is the story. That is the crime scene. And nobody in mainstream financial media is telling seniors about it because the banks make money on the lease fees and the probate attorneys make money on the aftermath, and everybody involved in the machinery has a financial incentive to let Eleanor walk right into it. So today, you and I are going to walk through this trap slowly, carefully, and with the exact statutory citations by state, because I am done watching families like Eleanor's get eaten alive by paperwork that could have been prevented in 20 minutes on a Saturday morning. Before we go one sentence deeper, do me a favor and smash that like button, because I need you to help break the 2026 algorithmic shadow ban that is smothering senior financial truth on this platform. And every single like on this video is one more retiree that YouTube is forced to show it to. And while your finger is on the screen, subscribe and flip the bell, because you are joining a resistance of retirees who refuse to be strip-mined by a system that quietly hopes you never read the fine print. Now let us get into it. Here is what actually happens the moment Eleanor's death certificate hits the branch manager's desk. And this is where I need you to pay attention, because the mainstream story is oversimplified in ways that will hurt you if you do not understand the geography of the problem. The general rule, which is real, and which does apply in some form to almost every state in the country, is that upon formal notification of the lessee's death, the bank freezes access to the safe deposit box. That freeze is not, contrary to what a lot of internet videos will tell you, some kind of automated computer trigger that fires the microsecond you flatline. It is a combination of 3 separate things working together. First, the lease agreement you signed when you rented the box gives the bank the contractual right to seal it upon receiving notice of the lessee's death. Second, state banking law reinforces that contractual right and in many jurisdictions imposes affirmative obligations on the bank to protect the contents until proper authority is established. Third, in a handful of states, state tax law adds a 4th layer requiring notification to the state tax commissioner before anything gets released, and Ohio is one of those states. which we are going to talk about in a minute because it is a masterclass in how bureaucracy compounds on itself. So the freeze is real, but the exit ramp out of that freeze varies wildly depending on which state your bank branch sits in. And this is where the rule of three becomes essential, because Florida, Ohio, and California each handle this problem with completely different statutory mechanisms. And if you are watching this video from any one of those three states and you do not know your specific rule, you are flying blind. Let us take Florida first. Florida Statute Section 655.935 is a beautifully written little piece of legislation that most Florida seniors have never heard of. And it exists precisely because the Florida legislature recognized that the will inside the box paradox was creating chaos in probate courts. Here is what the statute actually says in plain English. If satisfactory proof of the lessee's death is presented, meaning a certified death certificate, the bank is required to allow certain people to open and examine the contents of the safe deposit box. And the list of people is broader than you think. It includes the surviving spouse, it includes a parent, it includes an adult descendant, which means a son or daughter, and it includes any person named as personal representative in a copy of the purported will. So, in Florida, Eleanor's son Michael, who is her adult descendant, could walk into that bank branch with a certified death certificate, request access under Section 655.935, and open the box in the presence of a bank officer, without ever having filed a single piece of paperwork in probate court. He cannot remove everything. He cannot walk out with the jewelry or the savings bonds or the coin collection, but he is specifically authorized to have the original will delivered directly from the box to the clerk of the court in the county where the box is located. That is the Florida escape hatch. And I would bet you a coffee that 90% of Florida branch managers under the age of 35 have no idea this statute exists, which means Eleanor's Florida cousin is going to get told at the counter that she needs a court order, when in fact the law gives her the right to walk in and demand access under 655.935 with nothing more than a death certificate and proof she is the daughter. Tell me in the comments right now, if you are watching from Florida, whether your bank branch has ever mentioned Section 655.935 to you when you rented your box, because I am going to bet the answer is a resounding, deafening no. Now, let us walk across the country to California. California Probate Code Section 331 is the Golden State's version of the same idea, but the mechanics are different in ways that matter. Under Section 331, a person who holds a key to the safe deposit box can, before letters testamentary have been issued, obtain access to the box by presenting to the bank a certified copy of the death certificate and reasonable proof of identity. Note the difference. In Florida, the qualifying category is your family relationship. In California, the qualifying category is possession of the key. That means the California version is friendlier to someone who was given a key by mom before she died and less friendly to a grieving son who never got a key. And here is the second California wrinkle that catches people. Under Section 331 and Section 334, the person accessing the box is not allowed to remove the original will. They are required to make a photocopy of the will on the spot, leave the original inside the box, and the bank is then obligated to deliver that original to the Superior Court within a specific window. So California treats the will like a legal artifact that belongs at that moment to the court system, not to the family. Same problem, different mechanism, same eventual outcome, which is that the family can get to the will without hiring an attorney if they know which statute to cite. Now, let us walk into the darkest room of the three, which is Ohio. And I need you to take a breath because Ohio is where the bureaucracy stacks up in layers like sediment. Ohio does not have a clean, single statute mechanism the way Florida does. Instead, Ohio operates through a combination of banking practice and Ohio Revised Code Section 5731.39, which is buried inside the state tax code and which most people, including a lot of Ohio bankers, have never actually read. Section 5731.39, subsection F, contains a specific carve-out that allows a bank to deliver wills, deeds to burial lots, and insurance policies to a family representative even before the full tax-driven inventory process is completed. That is your Ohio escape hatch. But it is discretionary rather than mandatory, which means the Ohio branch manager can either help you or stall you based on how much they feel like following an obscure subsection of the tax code that day. And here is where I need to stop and give you a hard, unpleasant number, because this is what a super thanks looks like on this channel. If you are watching this video right now, and you live in Ohio, and you have a will sitting in a bank box on any street in Columbus or Cleveland or Cincinnati, the number I am about to give you is worth more than any financial column you have read this year. In a typical Ohio scenario where the family does not know about Section 5731.39 and the bank defaults to demanding letters of authority, families are paying between $1,500 and $4,000 in probate attorney fees just to file the special motion to gain access to the box. And they are waiting between 3 weeks and 3 months for the court to process the petition. Let me walk you through the math on that, because this is the kind of specific calculation nobody in mainstream financial media will do out loud. A basic Ohio probate attorney charges somewhere between $250 and $400 an hour, depending on the county. Preparing a petition to open a safe deposit box, filing it with the probate court, appearing at whatever hearing the court schedules, and coordinating with the bank on the actual opening typically eats between 6 and 12 billable hours. At $300 an hour on the low end, 6 hours is $1,800. At $350 an hour and 10 hours, which is a realistic scenario in a mid-sized Ohio county, you are at $3,500. Add in the county filing fee, which runs somewhere between $100 and $250 depending on the jurisdiction, and you are looking at a total out-of-pocket cost that easily crosses $2,000 on the low end and $4,000 on the high end. And that is before probate itself has even opened. That is just the cost of getting the will out of the box so the family can then start the actual probate process. That is real money and real time, extracted from a grieving family during the worst period of their lives, and it is 100% preventable. If this breakdown just saved you or someone you love that kind of money, the super thanks button under this video is how you keep this kind of investigation funded. One tap. The banking industry and the probate bar spend millions of dollars every year making sure retirees never learn about statutes like 655.935 and 5,731.39. And a super thanks is how you help me keep pulling that curtain back for the next retiree who walks into their branch this week. Now, having said all of that, I want to be brutally clear about something, because the mainstream story about this trap tends to swing to one of two extremes, and both of them are wrong. Extreme number 1 says the trap does not exist because there are statutes that let you around it. That is naive. The statutes exist on paper, but they are enforced through human beings behind counters who have never read them, and in a majority of real-world cases, the family gets stonewalled at the branch and ends up in probate court anyway. Extreme number 2 says the trap is a universal, absolute, no-way-out prison. That is also wrong, because it ignores the escape hatches we just walked through. The truth is that the trap is real. It is expensive, it is geographically variable, and the only way you personally protect your family from it is by understanding your specific state's mechanism before you die, and then choosing a storage strategy that renders the whole mess irrelevant. Which brings us to the villain. Because this is the part of the story where I have to explain to you exactly how the system profits from Eleanor's mistake, and why nobody in a position to warn her has any financial incentive to open their mouth. The bank is not, contrary to a lot of populist rhetoric on this topic, doing anything malicious. The bank is protecting itself from liability. If the bank hands over the contents of a safe deposit box to the wrong person, the bank can be sued by the real heirs for the value of everything inside. So the bank's default posture is defensive. When they receive notice of a death, they lock the box, and they wait for someone to show up with either a statute in one hand or a court order in the other. From the bank's perspective, this is prudent risk management. From your son's perspective, sitting in your kitchen after your funeral wondering why the nice teller at the counter is telling him he needs to talk to a judge before he can retrieve his own mother's will, this feels like the system treating him like a burglar. Both perspectives are correct simultaneously, and that is what makes this trap so brutal. Now, the probate attorney. This is where the incentive structure gets dark. When your family walks into a probate attorney's office because the bank told them they need letters testamentary to access the box, the attorney sees a client who is under emotional pressure, who does not understand the process, and who is going to say yes to whatever fee structure gets them access to the box in the shortest amount of time. In states like Ohio, this often results in the family paying for a full probate opening when a limited petition to open safe deposit box would have been sufficient. In Texas, where the probate court can order supervised access to retrieve estate documents within 2 to 3 weeks of filing a formal application, families are still routinely quoted flat fees of $3,000 to $5,000 for what is procedurally a fairly simple motion. In California, some attorneys will happily walk a family through a full probate opening without ever mentioning Probate Code Section 331 because the fee is bigger when the whole estate opens at once. I am not accusing every probate attorney in America of predatory behavior. I am telling you that the incentive structure is set up so that the family who does not know the specific escape statute in their state ends up paying for the deluxe package when the basic package would have solved the problem. Send this video to one retiree in your life who has a safe deposit box. Not tomorrow, today. One conversation now, while they are alive and can walk into the branch and fix this on a Saturday morning, saves their family thousands of dollars and months of stress later. Share it, text it, email it. Print it out and hand it to them at Sunday dinner. This is exactly the kind of specific, state-cited, actionable warning that families forward around the neighborhood, and it is exactly the kind of content that the mainstream financial media will never produce because their sponsors are the banks and the attorneys profiting from the confusion. And while we are talking about supporting the work that actually reaches retirees, hit the join button below the video and become a channel member. Membership is what keeps these investigations alive. It is what keeps the lights on. It is what keeps me digging into Florida Statutes Chapter 655 and Ohio Revised Code Chapter 5731, while the suits would prefer I go make cooking videos or lifestyle content that never threatens the fee structures they depend. If you want more videos like this one, membership is the lever that makes it happen. And the inner circle of members is where the deeper conversations happen about state-specific statutes and specific probate court procedures that we cannot always cover in the main video. Now, let us get into the strategy, because I promised you a survival plan and I am going to deliver one. This is a 7-step protocol, and I want you to write these down or save this video to your private library so you can come back to it when you are actually standing in the branch on Saturday morning ready to fix this. Save this video right now. Tap the save button. This is your survival manual for the day the family paperwork actually matters, and you are not going to want to be searching your history trying to find it 3 years from now when your executor calls and says the bank will not open the box. Step 1. This week, ideally within the next 5 business days, drive to the bank branch where your safe deposit box is located and formally retrieve every estate planning document you have stored there. That means the original signed last will and testament. That means any codicils. That means the original signed durable financial power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney. That means the original signed advance healthcare directive or living will. That means any original trust documents. You are not closing the box. You are just relocating the paperwork that is going to be immediately needed the moment you pass. Step 2. Purchase a genuinely fireproof residential safe. And this is where the specifications actually matter. Because most retirees walk into a hardware store and buy a $60 lockbox marked fireproof that will not survive a real house fire for more than about 20 minutes. What you want is a safe rated to Underwriters Laboratories class, 350 for a minimum of 1 hour, which means the internal temperature stays below 350 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 60 minutes when the exterior is exposed to 1700 degrees. Paper burns at about 450 degrees, so the 350 rating gives you real margin. A safe with this rating typically costs between $200 and $600, and it is one of the best purchases a senior can make. Step 3. Place the retrieved original documents inside the fireproof safe, and then write down the combination or the location of the key in a sealed envelope, and give that envelope to the person you have named as executor of your will. Do not text the combination. Do not email it. Do not put it in a group chat. Hand it to them physically, or mail it in a way that they will remember receiving. The whole point of this exercise is that the executor has barrier-free access to the paperwork the day it is needed, and that means they need to know both where the safe is and how to open it. Step 4. Consider the alternative of leaving the original will in the vault of the estate attorney who drafted it. Most estate planning attorneys will store the original will for you at no additional charge as a courtesy to their clients, and the advantage of this approach is that the attorney's office is a professional environment with fire suppression, security, and a clear chain of custody. The disadvantage is that if the attorney retires, dies, or has their firm dissolved, the original will can become surprisingly hard to locate. If you use this option, ask the attorney in writing for confirmation that the will is stored, and give a copy of that confirmation letter to your executor. Step 5. Consider the third option that most seniors have never heard of, which is depositing the original will with the clerk of the probate court in your county for safekeeping during your lifetime. This is a real service in most states. in Florida under Section 732.901, in Ohio under Ohio Revised Code Section 2107.07, and in California under Probate Code Section 8200. You can deliver your original signed will to the clerk of the court, and the clerk will hold it in a secure archive until your death, at which point it is immediately available to your executor. There is usually a nominal filing fee, typically somewhere between $10 and $50 depending on the county, which is a rounding error compared to what your family will pay if the will is stuck inside a bank vault. This option has the advantage of putting the will in the exact place it will eventually need to end up, which eliminates one step from the probate process entirely. It also has the advantage that the clerk of court is a permanent institution that does not retire, does not dissolve, and does not close its doors, which is a durability advantage over storing the will with a solo practitioner attorney who may not be in practice in 15 years. The trade-off is that once you deposit the will with the court, updating it requires either withdrawing it and redepositing or filing a formal codicil, so this option is best for retirees whose estate plans are stable and unlikely to change frequently. If you are still actively adjusting beneficiaries or making major life changes, the home fireproof safe or the attorney's vault is a better choice because it gives you faster editing access. Step 6. Update your estate binder. Create or update a single document called an executor's letter or a letter of instruction that tells your executor exactly where every important piece of paperwork is stored, who your attorney is, who your accountant is, which banks hold which accounts, and where the safe combination or clerk of court filing receipt can be found. Print this letter. Do not just save it on a computer, because your executor may not have your password, and by the time they figure out how to access your laptop, they will be 6 weeks behind. Keep one printed copy inside the fireproof safe itself, and give one to your executor sealed in an envelope. Step 7. Once every year, on the same date, do a 2-hour paperwork audit. Sit down at your kitchen table with a cup of coffee and go through the safe, the executor's letter, and the estate documents to make sure everything is current, addresses are right, phone numbers are right, beneficiaries on your accounts still match the intent of your will, and no document has been superseded by a newer version that never made it into the safe. Pick a date that means something to you so you actually remember it. If this 7-step protocol just gave your family a survival plan they did not have when they woke up this morning, the Super Thanks button is how you keep this kind of investigation reaching the next retiree. One tap. This is the second time I am asking, and I am asking because the reality is that the retirees who watch this channel and support the channel are the reason the next retiree finds it in their feed. Every Super Thanks funds the research time it takes to actually read Florida Statutes Chapter 655 and cross-reference it against Ohio Revised Code Chapter 5731 rather than just recycling generic financial advice. Now let me give you the final warning, because I want you to walk away from this video with the emotional urgency this deserves. The suits want me to tell you this is not financial advice. It is a survival guide for an unguarded vault. Consult a professional if you still trust the same people trying to tax your Social Security for the 3rd time. But here is the truth. The bank branch where your safe deposit box sits today is not going to call you and warn you about this trap. Your bank is not going to send a letter to every senior box holder in America saying, "Hey, by the way, if you keep your will in here, you are going to cost your family $3,000 and 3 months of grief." The probate attorneys who profit from the confusion are not going to hold a public seminar explaining Florida Statute 655.935 and California Probate Code Section 331 and Ohio Revised Code Section 5731.39. The mainstream financial press is not going to run a Sunday feature about the safe deposit box trap because their advertising base is exactly the industry that benefits from the trap. The only people warning you are the retirees on this channel, in this community, sharing this video, and building the resistance one Saturday morning at a time. So, this is what I need from you before you close this video. Hit the join button below the video and become a channel member. That is the second time I am asking, and I am asking because the reality of running an investigative channel about senior finance in 2026 is that the algorithm punishes it, the sponsors avoid it, and the only funding model that works is retirees who join the inner circle to keep the next investigation getting made. Membership is what keeps this channel independent, which is what keeps this channel honest, which is what makes it possible to actually name statutes and criticize practices without worrying about whether the wrong sponsor is going to pull their money. If you want more videos like this one, more state-by-state breakdowns, more actual citations to actual statutes rather than vague warnings and hedged language, membership is the mechanism that makes it happen. And before you decide to bypass the will entirely by just putting your child's name directly on the deed to your house, The next video reveals the devastating tax penalty that triggers the moment you do, and it involves a section of the Internal Revenue Code that most seniors have never heard of and that most real estate agents will never mention to you. That video is being cut this week. Members get early access. Everyone else, subscribe and turn the bell on so it hits your feed the moment it goes live. Eleanor is still sitting at her kitchen table in that ranch house outside Cincinnati with her cold coffee and her manila folder. It is not too late for her. It is not too late for you. Drive to the branch this week. Retrieve the paperwork. Store it where your family can actually reach it. And do not let a $50 a year metal drawer cost your children $3,000 and 3 months of grief they will never get back. This is the retirement insurgent. Stay dangerous. Stay documented. And I will see you in the next